The Framingham School Committee consists of 9 members elected from each city district for a 2-year term. The mayor serves as an ex officio member by virtue of office and only votes to break a tie vote. The school committee adopts and oversees the administration of an annual operating budget for the school department, appoints a superintendent of the schools, and works to make all reasonable rules and regulations for the management of the public school system. The following school committee meeting coverage is brought to you by the Government Channel, a service of the City of Framingham.
Call this meeting to order at 7:22 p.m. Welcome to the Framingham School Committee meeting of May 6th. Call this meeting to order at 7:22 p.m. School Committee meetings provide American Sign Language, Spanish, Portuguese interpretation via Zoom. You can find the instructions on how to access live interpretation on the agenda on the school committee's website and when you register via Zoom. A reminder to members and all in attendance to speak slowly to allow time for interpretation, as well as to speak into the microphones, otherwise those on Zoom cannot hear you. In attendance tonight, we have District 1, Rich Robles, District 2, Lorena Tovar, District 3, Jen Moshe, District 4, Adam Freudberg, District 5, Judy Steyer, District 6, Brent Lewis, District 7, Kyle Shepard, District 8, Jessica Barnhill, District 9, William LaBarge. We're joined by our Student Advisory Chair, Deborah Davitoria. Ex officio member, Mayor Charlie Sosiski will not be in attendance tonight. From the district, we have Superintendent Dr. Tremblay, Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Lincoln Lynch, and the Assistant Superintendent of Pre-K to 12 Education, Ann Ludes. This meeting is live on the Government Channel and can be viewed live on Facebook on the Framingham Public Schools Facebook page. A recording of this meeting will be archived on the City of Framingham and School Committee websites as soon as possible. Meeting materials can be accessed on the committee's website page with tonight's meeting date. Members of the public can participate via Zoom, specifically during the title public comment portion. The call-in number is 305-224-1968. Webinar ID is 885-6285-2611. Tonight's agenda includes public comment, announcements from the chair, Mayor's update, Student Advisory Committee and Elementary Student Council remarks. Welcome. Update from SciFoc members, Superintendent of Schools update, Assistant Superintendent for Pre-K to 12 Education update, Executive Director of Finance and Operations update, update on SciFoc applications, set the process to annually evaluate the superintendent, nominations for the MASC awards and resolutions, School Building Committee update, subcommittee reports including finance and operations, approval of gifts and minutes, and adjournment. All right, this brings us to public comment. At every regularly scheduled school committee meeting, we reserve 15 minutes for members of the public who may wish to speak on a topic within the school committee's purview. Guidelines for public comment are on the school committee's website. All comments will be accepted to as advice and may not be responded to tonight. Please indicate in your response if you would like follow-up and provide your contact information. If the matter is in the school committee's purview, we will respond. If in the superintendent's, he or his office will. If you're participating via Zoom, use the raise hand feature. If by phone, press *9 if you'd like to speak when recognized. Remarks including any personal attacks to anyone, including members of the administration or members of the school committee, will not be tolerated. We will have an additional public comment period at the end of this meeting. Looking at the lists, we'll alternate between in-person and Zoom, and we're going to bring it from 3 minutes down to 2 minutes because we have a decent amount here. Okay. Chris Amanita, excuse me if I pronounced that right incorrectly. Chris. All right, we're going to do 2 minutes. I'll give you a quick 10-second reminder when your time's getting close. If you could just wrap it up, I'd appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you. So my name is Chris Amanita. I'm the Brophy Elementary School PTO president. Tonight I'm accompanied by other PTO board members and many Brophy parents. So we recently learned that the Vice Principal, Kenji Foster, will not be reappointed to his role this coming fiscal year. We understand it has to do with staffing reductions that's governed by a reduction in force contractual language, which dictates the decision-making process to retain or bump staff. So while we understand that it must be honored, as responsible members of our community, we are acting in the best interest of our student body and the staff and the families that will ultimately be impacted. So difficult decisions have been made. We're very aware more might follow. So we want to just make aware that Vice Principal Kenji Foster, Principal Gould, Vice Principal Rivera have succeeded in creating a stability and cohesive leadership at Brophy School. And I think over the past 5 years, there's been turnover 4 times, and we're all pretty exhausted from it. So with that being said, I just want to make a word about Mr. Foster, his dedication to improving school culture at Brophy. I'll keep this very brief. He's been at attendance in all of our events. That includes a variety show. He came on with a suit and a bow tie. He even sung with one of the participants that asked him to come on up, showed up in an 80s neon tracksuit for the Glow Dance party. I notice a increase in leadership and the students as a result of his presence. I think that it's evident that losing Mr. Foster would be detrimental to the stability that's been created at the school. So while we understand that it's very hard to turn these decisions based on the frameworks used, we are hoping that a stable work environment and positive culture for the staff and students are prioritized across the district above all else. I just want to thank you all for everything you do for the community and your consideration in seeking the best outcomes during a very challenging time for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we're going to go to Zoom. Up first, we have Jess Villatoro. Jess, can you just unmute and do a sound check before I start your clock?
Unmute. Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, we can, yep. Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. All right. The situation impacting Brophy and Hemingway can be avoided. The 10-year VP that is bumping Mr. Foster can remain at Hemingway, where she is now currently working and liked and supported. She can bump the other non-tenured VP at Hemingway, who was just hired in August, as was Mr. Foster. This would allow Mr. Foster to remain at Brophy, where he is liked and supported by all. This would provide stable and consistent leadership for both schools, for students, families, and teachers. These proposed cuts to student-facing positions and building level administrators are deeply concerning. These roles are directly support students' academic success, well-being, and safety. I was able to read through the contracts of a variety of central office positions, and what I found raises serious concerns about transparency and prioritization. All of these high-level paying jobs are also awarded stipends to pad their salaries even more. There are at least 9 positions getting a travel stipend of $6,000 or more. One central office administrator even gets an extra stipend for being bilingual and another stipend for being identified as BIPOC. What is even more concerning is that many of these highest paid positions lack clearly defined job descriptions or day-to-day responsibilities in their contracts. Instead, broadly stating duties are performed at the discretion of their supervisor or the superintendent. At the same time, these responsibilities of student-facing positions are clear, measurable, and essential. Given this, it is difficult to justify cutting positions that directly serve students while maintaining or not even closely examining higher paid administrative roles whose functions are not clearly communicated to the public. The community deserves clear answers. What alternatives have been fully explored to avoid eliminating student-facing? What are the day-to-day specific responsibilities and deliverables of the highest paid central office staff? For far too long, Dr. Tremblay and Mr. Lynch have not prioritized student-facing positions. They have had too much control with not enough oversight in the school committee. It is your job to provide that oversight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, in person, we're going to Rachel Mikowski. Mikowski? Yeah, thank you. Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Hi, I'm Rachel Makowski. I'm a board member on the PTO at Brophy, and my son is in second grade there. I wanted to speak tonight about the importance of continuity and stability within school leadership teams, especially in our elementary schools. Strong schools are not built overnight. They're built through trust, consistency, collaboration, and leadership teams that have the time and support to grow together. When a district identifies strong leadership, it should prioritize keeping those teams intact whenever possible. Brophy has experienced years of turnover, with both principals and vice principals coming in and out of the building. The Brophy community deserves stability. At Brophy, we've seen meaningful progress this year with Principal Gould and Vice Principals Riviera and Foster. This team has worked exceptionally well together. They're building strong relationships with staff, students, and families while creating stability and positive momentum within the building. That kind of progress deserves your support, not disruption. The school committee has already demonstrated that it values continuity and leadership by extending Dr. Tremblay's contract through 2030, nearly double the average superintendent contract length in Massachusetts. In the district's press release, you stated that the extension would, quote, ensure continued leadership and stability for Framingham Public Schools, end quote. That decision reflected the understanding that long-term improvement requires consistency, trust, and time to build systems and relationships that work. I ask the same philosophy be applied at the school building level as well. Just a few years ago, McCarthy faced significant challenges, including concerns around building leadership and staff confidence. The district made the decision to promote Mr. Smith to principal, who then built a strong administration team around him. That team has had the opportunity to grow together. Today, McCarthy is often recognized for its improved culture, stronger staff morale, and better staff retention.
That's time. Please wrap up.
That turnaround didn't happen because people were constantly moved around. It happened because the district committed to the building and maintaining of a cohesive leadership team, and I thank you for that. And I ask for the same at Brophy. Please keep that administrative team intact. Thank you.
Up next, we're at Ms. Maskell. I hit allow to talk. If you just give us a sound check, and I'll start your clock for 2 minutes.
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can. Yep. Welcome. Thanks.
Thanks. Good evening, school committee members. My name is Tiffany Maskell from District 7 and a parent. I want to focus on where we are right now because it matters. Last night, City Council sent the budget back to the mayor. That gives us 2 weeks. 2 weeks for him to come back with something better. Right now, his proposal leaves a $2 million gap for our schools, and we all know what that means. It shows up in real ways for our students and our school community. And I want to be clear, this isn't a budget this committee wanted. This is a budget you were forced into. You did the excruciating work of making cuts, including cutting jobs just to reach a number. Yes, the district lost over 700 students, and this committee already cut to account for that loss. But now, even after those reductions, you're being asked to cut even more. That's not realistic, that's not sustainable, and it does not reflect what our schools actually need. And on top of that, the mayor agreed to a teacher's contract and is now putting forward a budget that does not fully fund it. So this isn't just about numbers. It's about priorities. It's about commitments. It's about whether we are willing to keep asking our schools to do more with less until there is nothing left to cut. Because the truth is, our district will not recover from this easily. The impacts of these decisions will not just disappear. Once programs are cut, positions are lost, and trust is broken, rebuilding will take years. Right now, we have a window, 2 weeks to be clear. A $2 million gap is unacceptable. A budget already built on painful cuts
About 10
should
seconds
not
remaining.
be pushed even further. Our community is paying attention. People are ready to speak up. They just need to see that same urgency from you. We have 2 weeks. Let's use them. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Francesca Feliciano, Did I say that right? Sorry if I didn't. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent and board members. I'd like to just quickly ask all of the Framingham parents from Brophy Elementary who are here to show their support for Kenji Foster. Okay. Not everybody is going to talk, but I just wanted to show that he's clearly a person that we value. He is not just an administrator, he's also a resident with his own children who sit in our classrooms. And when he is making decisions, he's not just looking at a budget or a spreadsheet, he's also looking at the community where he is raising his family. That kind of skin in the game is, I think, rare, and it's exactly what we need at Brophy. Oftentimes, we see administrators who are behind closed doors, but Mr. Foster has shown a refreshing desire to learn the DNA of our school. He has taken a special interest in our programs like SAGE, and he's showing a level of engagement with specialized curriculum, which is, again, something we really rarely see in upper management. Beyond the 3:20 p.m. bell, he is committed to things outside of the school day. Whether he is serving as the master of ceremonies at our talent show or showing up in neon clothes head to toe, he is there to champion our school spirit, and he is there. Our teachers, I've spoken to a number of them, and they've said to us that they are exhausted, and they deal with some incredibly challenging situations daily, and they are vocal about their exhaustion that is coming from the administrative turnover. A positive work culture cannot be built on revolving doors. It requires stable, consistent support staff so teachers can focus on what they do best, teaching. He's kind of like a doctor in our community. In my professional life, I used to sell Medicare insurance. I saw seniors change their plans every single day, but they would draw a hard line at one thing: they could not leave their doctor.
We're getting close to time, ma'am.
Relationships are the foundation of trust. While Mr. Foster's not an MD, he is a vital practitioner for our children's growth, and we want a long-term relationship with the people helping us raise our children to be successful adults. We are asking the district to prioritize consistency over change. Please keep that in mind, and please help us keep Mr. Foster. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, looks like there's no other Zoom hands up. Next up, Meenakshi Verma Agrawal.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Meenakshi Verma Agrawal. I'm a parent of children in the Framingham Public Schools. I live in District 2. I'm also a representative of Framingham Families for Racial Equity in Education. I'm here to talk about transparency and corruption, frankly. We're slowly learning through anonymous sources and leaks that the central office employees are making nearly double our student-facing teachers. These bloated contracts are the very reasons that we as constituents have been asking you all as committee members for answers as to why this corruption is allowed to exist, and the lack of transparency is so clear. I also want to say that if these people were doing their jobs correctly, which they're being paid so much for, we wouldn't have a serious amount of discrimination lawsuits pending that are yet to be adjudicated by the district and paid out by the district. Women of color, people of color have been talking about this lack of transparency from the administration for many years now, and I think now the point has reached a tipping point where staff are speaking up through anonymous sources, and that signals serious leadership problems. And I say, if you all choose to remain silent in this injustice, we see this as complicity. I also want to call in the relationship that you all have with the state representatives and leaders in Framingham. Many people don't know that the state government is proposing spending $360 million on a women's prison in Framingham. The irony is not missed here. Is our leadership preparing prisons for our children because they lack the courage to stand up for funding our schools? We are creating our own school-to-prison pipeline in Framingham because we're afraid to stand up to corrupt leaders both locally and statewide. I really implore you all, school committee members, to hold the administration accountable, and please do better for our children.
Thank you. Next up, Nika Vladimirov. Welcome.
I am at the school committee tonight to address the body on the important work that Unit E members provide every day. As a campus aide, I can attest to the personal impact I've had on the Stapleton student body, ranging from pleasantries in the hallway to months-long close relationships. Campus aides have the unique position of personally getting to know the entire student population. Over the past 4 months that I've worked at Stapleton, I have seen the impact that I have had on the students. For example, a rather reserved, a quiet first grader who is still learning English always perks up and comes out of her shell when she sees me. Another first grader refused to re-enter her classroom until I coaxed her into coming back inside. A third grader completely stumped on his math homework worksheet until I showed him the trick of adding one to one side and taking away one from the other. He was incredibly pleased and even honored me with a high five. There were countless stories I can tell from Stapleton's classes and halls. However, I want to bring attention to one in particular. There's a fourth grader who sometimes has difficulty in the classroom. When I met her, she wanted nothing to do with me. However, as I kept coming to her classroom to support her, I connected to her and related to her feelings of ostracization. We even went on a field trip together where I escorted her one-on-one around the Museum of Science, and we had a great time. She and the rest of her class, whom I have also connected with, have been steadily improving and are on track to finish strong. I couldn't be prouder of them. All of this is possible due to the support campus aides provide. Traditional substitutes don't have the same opportunities we do to build a rapport with our students. And just as the kids improve, we want to see them flourish and thrive. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to conclude this part of public comment, and we'll pick up the rest at the end of this meeting. So we're going to go on to announcements from the chair. The school committee met earlier in executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining because an open meeting might have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of a public body. And the chair so declares pursuant to general law, Chapter 30, Section 21A3, specifically in regards to Unit A, B, C, E, N, S, and T. First announcement. Second announcement, happy Teacher Appreciation, happy Nurses Appreciation. Thank you to all the parent and student volunteers who have helped make this week extra special for those professionals who have touched so many lives. Having said that, we will go on to our Student Advisory Committee and Elementary School Student Council remarks. So I'll turn it over to our Student Advisory Chair, Deborah Davitoria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. For tonight, I wanted to give a very brief update because we also have elementary students from Stapleton here joining us to share about their council. So I'll jump right into some school-wide updates. First, the FHS Poetry Slam took place last Wednesday. For those who don't know what Poetry Slam is, this is basically an annual event where students perform original poems in groups and compete through different rounds. Several groups performed this year, and this year was especially exciting because for the first time in FHS Slam poetry history, 2 teams tied for first place. So the final say and triple threat all were tied for first place, and Jihud won, took third place. I also got to perform a sacrificial poem, so I got to be there and watch all the other groups perform, and it was really, really cool and amazing to see they're performing such great and powerful poems. Another recent event was Bridges and Blooms. This was a 4-day community exhibit at Village Hall on the Common. It was a collaboration between the art department, 3D art, and design student and the Environmental Awareness Club, History Center, as well as the Framingham Garden Club. They featured student artwork, floral displays, and environmental education, and students were involved in many parts of the event. And I just want to congratulate everyone that was involved because of it's amazing the success of the event. Additionally, senior prom is also coming up on May 22nd. Tickets are available for $90, and they can be purchased in room F207 during A and F blocks or after school in the main lobby until May 20th. In-person sales are in cash or check only, and students are also able to purchase tickets online through the City Hall website. This week also marks the official start of AP exams, and I wanted to congratulate all the students who have already taken or will be taking exams over the next couple of weeks. Taking an AP class is not an easy feat, and I just wanted to wish everyone good luck. As for Student Advisory Council updates, we just recently sent out our survey on well-being and sleep, and we're currently working on our next presentation. We're very excited to share all the insights we gathered from the student responses. Now I want to transition to our elementary student council updates, but before I do, I just wanted to give a little bit of context behind it. After SAC visited several elementary schools back in January, we saw just how much students enjoy being part of councils and how many wanted to continue being involved later in middle school, and also just wanted more opportunities to be involved. And this idea sort of made it clear that, and made it feel even more important to invite and open up the opportunity for the elementary student councils to come up and speak during a meeting. So what stood out about Stapleton during our visit was that students were using survey data to think about how they could better support the community and having very, very meaningful discussions about how they could better support their peers and also represent their voices within their discussions. And with the help of Dr. Tremblay, Mr. Fromberg, Ms. Ludes, and Ms. Donato, and Ms. Barnhill, we were able to bring this opportunity forth tonight. I believe this is a great pilot opportunity, and hopefully in the future this can expand to other elementary school councils across this district, because there truly is amazing work happening in all of the Framingham public schools. So without further ado, I would like to invite the students from Stapleton to share their update.
Hi, my name is Adeline. I'm a 5th grader at Stapleton Elementary School. I'm a member of our student council. I'm the secretary, so I take notes at all of our meetings. Our student council and subgroups show leadership in various ways, including stating the morning announcements, announcing the Student of the Week winners, and service projects such as organizing Lost and Found, cleaning up our school grounds. Being a student leader means being a role model for other students. My favorite council activity was making the time capsule.
Hi, my name is Cece. I am a 5th grader at Stapleton Elementary School and a member of our student council. I was voted the vice president. Earlier this year, we met with Deborah and the FHS student leaders to discuss how, as a student council, we can improve Stapleton. We designed a school spirit week for all the grades, which was fun. We were also the team that created the list of items to go into our time capsule. My favorite part of being a student leader is creating Spirit Week.
Hi, my name is Aubrey. I'm a 5th grader at Stapleton Elementary School. I'm a member of our student council, and I am the substitute if our lead roles are absent. Earlier this year, we looked at student belonging survey data. From that, we decided to create and present a slideshow to show our peers on increasing student-to-student respect. My favorite memory at Stapleton is making tie-dye shirts in 1st grade.
Hi, my name is Thomas. I'm a 5th grader at Stapleton Elementary School. I am a member of our student council at Stapleton. We're currently taking the MCAS test. We looked at our scores from last year and set goals. We are trying our best in using strategies. Our school goal is, as a Stapleton student, I believe in myself and take an active role in my learning. Being a student leader allows me to make decisions for our school.
Our core values are be respectful, be responsible, and be ready to learn. Thank you for having us here tonight.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you to the parents and the teachers and Deborah and the principal who helped facilitate this. I'll open up for member questions and comments. Anyone wants to ask our Stapleton representatives? Go ahead.
I would love for you guys to share your presentation of your peer-to-peer with us so we can see it and maybe share it with the other schools.
We can do that.
All right. Yeah, we'd love to look at that. Go ahead, Mr. Freudberg.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Can you tell us a little bit more about the time capsule, where it's buried, and then what year it's going to be opened? And then I have one other question.
Mr. Chambly, do you know?
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, well done, by the way. Thanks for kicking that to me. Mr. Freudberg, this is part of the 325 anniversary. So this is the 25-year time capsule from now. So it'll be opened 25 years from this year, and there's a 50-year time capsule that's separate from that. And the students at all the schools had the opportunity to decide what they would like to include. The time capsule, as you may have seen, is about the size of a pencil box. So you really can't put a lot into it. So I'd be interested, maybe, I don't know if you're able to share a little bit to answer the question, maybe what you included in there. Is that even allowable? I guess you can do that, right? Is that it? I don't think we're breaking any rules of from that. And I also wanted, just before you, while you're thinking about what was in the time capsule, just to give a shout out to your principal, Steve Donato, who's here, your vice principal, Ms. Karaskios, who's here as well tonight in support of all of you, and to Deborah for bringing this to fruition. And we're looking forward to having you all part of a student council summit in June. You haven't gotten that invitation from me yet, but you'll be invited to join all of the student councils of all the elementary schools together at the central office, and you'll have a chance to do a problem of practice together. You'll have lunch. It'll be a lot of fun. So it'll be a great day to bring all the student councils together, and Jordan Cohen will be joining us that day as well, who helped with Deborah to bring this to life. So I've given you a little extra pause time to think about what was in the time capsule, and hopefully that answers Mr. Freudberg's question about when and where. And where it is buried will be at Fuller Middle School, because that was the result of the mascot contest. And there was some hot debate as to which bird won, because there was a variety of mascots. As it turned out, it was the Fuller Falcon that won. There was some confusion with another bird, but that was the prevailing bird of prey. So Fuller is the middle school where the time capsule will be buried. Hopefully that answers your questions, Mr. Freudberg. I'll turn it back to the student council.
So in our capsule, we had a 3D printed eagle, a student ID badge, a 2025 penny, because those were the last year that pennies were minted, a questionnaire completed by 5th grade student council members, a single talkie because that is the favorite snack, and we also wanted to see what it would look like in 25 years. Color printouts of popular memes, and a Dubai chocolate wrapper because it's like a really popular chocolate.
Thank you. That was great information. Really appreciate you and the superintendent on that. And my other question was more of just in the future, if you ever have any ideas for how to improve your school, all schools, we have a policy-making role and would love to get ideas from students. We don't often have this opportunity to talk to you directly, and so just know we're here to take in any ideas you have, and hopefully your council can make change directly in your building as well. Thank you.
We'd love to have you back too. And then if you have a friend or someone who is interested and they came to you to ask you if they should join student council, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, like, if they like speaking in front of people, then it would be a good idea. But like, if they don't really like that, then maybe it's not the best idea.
Great. Any more suggestions?
Well, I think that you could join either way if you like talking to people or like not, because still during the meetings, like at our school during lunchtime, you can still like say your ideas in front of like less people, but like you don't have to do talking like this.
All right, are there any more questions? Well, thank you for paving the way for other groups to join us, and we would love to have you back at some point. And like Mr. Freudberg said, if there's anything that you can connect us with that's going on in your world, we're happy to hear it and listen. And thank you to the parents and the teachers who are the pit crew behind there supporting our students. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Great job. I think we should do that every meeting. Anything further from your update? All right, thank you so much, Deborah. Appreciate all your work on this. It was a ton of work for her organizing this and getting all the forms and the permission and the transportation and all that. So, big lift. Much appreciated. Yeah. All right. All right. As they clear out, we're going to invite members of SciFoc to the table. I think, Ann, you can probably leave the mics out because we're going to, oh, you need one. Yeah, you can maybe take one. They can share.
That's fine. I'll wait.
Okay. So SciFoc is next. Update from Strategic Initiatives and Financial Oversight Committee. So I'm going to hand it over to the SciFoc Chair and the SC appointee, Sean Silk, as member, and SC appointee, Todd Perret, and their member, Nicole Hovey. Is that your spelling? Is she here today? Nicole? Oh, she's online. Okay, on Zoom. All right, and the presentation will be shared. And I'll turn it over to you and let you take it away. Welcome.
Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Sean Silk, and this is Todd.
Good evening. Todd Price.
We're just going to be going over a quick presentation. I'll hand it over to Todd, let him go through the slides, and then we'll be open for questions after.
Good evening. Mic check. Yep, there it is. All right. My name is Todd Perret. I'm one of 3 school council appointees to the SciFoc. That is the Strategic Initiative and Financial Oversight Committee. I know that anyone from the public may not be familiar with our committee and our role. I'll be referring to the committee as SciFoc in the presentation. And I do have a couple of slides in here, a couple of comments I'll be making as an individual member, not necessarily representing the entire SciFoc official recommendation. I believe everyone did receive a copy of the report. I did make a couple of tweaks just to refine some numbers that were included in an original version, and I'll be referring to that. And I've got some prepared notes, but I'm also just going to kind of dialogue a little bit with you guys. Please do think of any questions you'd like to ask at the end. I'd love to have an open conversation about this. We're making some, I think, hopefully some pretty interesting recommendations for you guys. So as defined by the Homeroom Charter, SciFoc was originally instantiated in 2019. I've actually been on the committee for 3 years, and I think we've made some significant progress in the last several years, culminating in the 2025 report, in which we've detailed out some of the work that we completed in surveying other communities, how they do strategic planning, in contrast to how Framingham has maybe and I'll acknowledge here that moving from a town government to a city government, I think we're still young in that kind of planning process, and maybe that's surfacing in some of our findings. We conducted a number of different interviews with folks. We looked at a lot of different other cities and municipalities to see how they do kind of financial planning. We also engaged with a couple of local cities in very direct dialogue, deep kind of dialogue about how they do planning, as well as a vendor, and we're going to get to some of the recommendations here in a little bit. I'll also note that the Framingham Public Schools was one of the bright spots that we identified as having a strategic plan, and I think that's something we'll touch on here as well. Okay. Moving to the key findings of the 2025 report. Thank you. These are 5 specifically cited in the report, and I think these are tightly interrelated. I also think it's again, important to acknowledge that the systems are relatively young and maturing. And I think one of the recommendations that we're making here is to continue to build on that journey. I'd also point out that a lot of these findings were echoed in our individual conversations with different folks, from city council members to candidates for mayor, the economic planning board. And so these were pretty well substantiated across a number of different investigation avenues. Next slide. Again, on a positive note, I think our research showed that the FPS, as well as the library system, had a pretty good strategic plan. The library system actually had a 5-year plan baselined on 2027 that they've begun investing in. I think the challenge, I'll point out, while several departments have strategic plans, while we have a master plan, while we have the land use plan, there isn't a comprehensive citywide plan that allows kind of trade-offs and analysis across multiple different departments, or any kind of baseline performance metrics that would allow, again, cross-departmental analysis on either a year-over-year or a long-range planning perspective. That's one of the key findings and the source of our recommendation. Go to the next slide. So as an example, just for the Framingham Public Schools, as one department that would benefit from a more comprehensive strategic plan that operates across departments, these are just some of the kind of benefits that the school board appointees on the SIFOC. Again, not necessarily a formal SIFOC recommendation or finding, but these are just some of the areas in which having a citywide strategic plan would allow better planning and trade-off analysis on a year-over-year basis. And I'd also like to acknowledge, and I know several people have left, but it was phenomenal as a citizen to see the kind of participation and enthusiasm from the public. It's really encouraging to know that that kind of passion is out there, which also kind of gets to the point about some of the transparency. I know some of the comments resonated here. What we've found in looking at a lot of other municipalities is that when they have strong strategic planning and the metrics that go along with that and the transparent financial reporting at a city level, that really cuts through some of the, maybe the confusion in gridlock that you might find on a year-over-year basis when, departments are trying to plan individually. So we've identified a couple of, really key benefits. I think, again, this is just an example for FPS, for the public school system. So I think similar benefits would accrue across multiple different departments as well. Sorry if I'm going to kind of rush through this. I know that y'all have the report. Hopefully the public will have access to the report as well, and please do look into that if you have a chance. Moving on to the next slide, I think this is one where, I've kind of captured some of the headline numbers. I've noted with little asterisks here, as often happens, when you look at a roll-up number, there's a lot of different nuance that goes into this. So different people will take a different perspective on these numbers, but I think it does highlight that, yes, there is definitely a challenge in managing this budgeting process on a year-over-year basis. These are numbers that have been, I think, maybe flagged in some media reporting about what's going on. And I think certainly it resonates with some of the comments I've heard today. While it's a bit provocative, maybe I think the underlying point is that, again, not having that strategic plan that cuts across all departments, it leaves us open to having these kinds of debates. And so this is what we're kind of driving at. Right, our recommendation, going to the next slide, is to issue an RFP that's a request for proposal to a specific vendor. There are several vendors that we identified. There's actually, I think, 2 different tiers of vendors that we identified, some of whom are very specialized at doing this and have a very reasonable cost structure to do this. And we've seen that the payback on something like this would accrue immediately on a multiple-fold basis. I think 10x return in the first year on doing this. This would improve, we would want to also improve the timely public financial reporting that goes along with this. I think we've got some examples in isolated areas, but I think as part of the engagement to develop a strategic plan, this would also kind of help us understand how to build the systems and processes that we need for more timely and consistent financial reporting. And then obviously, once we have that, we have to have, I think, the city processes and cadence built in to go and use this on a regular annual year-over-year basis. Okay. Moving on to how that might kind of translate directly for the school committee. What we're going to ask of you guys to do is, if you could, pass a resolution in support of this. I think the mayor and the new CFO would really appreciate some kind of vocal support from key departments, encouraging this to happen. If we're going to move forward with this, I think in parallel, it would be reasonable for the city council or for the school council to advocate for a prominent role in the strategic blueprint. And then I think it would be very important also to really reiterate the point that having a blueprint is only one piece of the puzzle, that we really also need timely financial reporting across all departments in a very consistent way. All right. I think that is the last slide that I prepared for you guys, but I'm open for any questions you might have about the process that we went through or any of the specific recommendations. And Sean, please weigh in with anything you've got as well.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. I find it interesting. My first question is, one, the budget crisis and strategic alignment. Where's that $5 million number coming from?
Yeah, that was an initial report that I'd have to dig up where exactly that came from, but you'll notice the asterisk that was subsequently closed, I think, by about half and cut down to 2.5 million.
2.5, yeah.
Yep. And then that was taken from some of the city data that was published, and I think some of that dates back to 2024. So I'd have to go look at exactly where that came from.
Because that's thrown me off, to be honest, looking at this whole presentation, because those are not numbers that we're aware of.
Right.
Thank you. So my next question, what type of company would come in? I mean, you said there were several companies to do this type of a blueprint, and what it would mean internally as far as the schools. I can't get into the city side because that's a whole different beast, but as far as the schools, what would that mean for us? What does it entail, and what does these types of companies actually do?
Sure, and I'm gonna make an initial comment, and then Sean weigh in as well with additional details. One of the vendors that we talked to is called Invisio, and they've worked with other cities, and I believe what the process would include is coming in and conducting interviews with various city council and department staff to understand what are some of the dynamics that would need to be accounted for in a strategic blueprint, but also then mapping out what a citywide vision would be, and then translating that vision into key objectives and metrics that would go along with that as part of the blueprint. Sean, any additional comments?
Yeah, the biggest challenge we're probably facing is community outreach. So the vendor would primarily, for us, be responsible for helping to organize, gather all that data, because, to set the strategic priorities for the city, we would need a very good wide swath of information from everybody to figure out what their priorities are, so we can match up the priorities of the city with the constituents in it. And we also we're looking to create a dashboard for the city with the information and different metrics that we could use to monitor the progress towards that, so the vendors can help create that and run that as well.
Do we have any idea just what something like that would cost?
We did get a number, but it was, why we want the RFP is to get it a better sense of that number. It was reasonable when we got the number, just from asking, hey, give us a ballpark of where this would be. But I would feel more comfortable giving it once we have the RFP and know get formal responses back.
Sure. I mean, the only reason why I ask is we're in a budget crisis. I mean, there's no doubt we're losing teachers because we can't afford to keep them. So to go out and get an RFP instead of having a teacher stay and work in our classrooms, I think right now is personally not the time. I feel right now is not the time. Could it benefit us over time by giving us suggestions that are money saving? Sure, but there's no guarantee in that.
Part of it is that I also, I see this as something that needs to happen now despite the budget crisis, because you're basically running an operation year to year, and without having a solid plan for the future. So essentially, this will help avoid the next crisis to come, because you'll have a better idea of, I guess when everybody's on the same page, it almost works better for the budget, because the budget will reflect the strategic priorities and will reflect the planning that goes into place. So, although at the moment, yes, it's a bad time for spending money on anything, the future benefit to me outweighs the momentary.
Did you request anything
pressure.
in the budget from the mayor for this?
We did speak to the mayor about it, and, again, the budget crisis, he was aware of it, well aware of it. So, not funding right now, but we are looking for it still. And, it's not going to delay our determination that we need it.
I would like to just follow up on that briefly, and thank you for the question. But I think I want to make sure that the public understands that we're not asking the school committee to fund this, that it would be a city-funded activity, just to be for full transparency.
It still affects us.
Sure, of course. I mean, it's coming out of the overall city budget, right, in which it's, it would be a very, very small amount. And again, to Sean's point, I think would pay orders of magnitude dividends very quickly in terms of identifying where maybe better efficiencies can be found across all the departments and really prioritize those things that matter most to the largest percentage of the population and really get those up to the top.
Thank you. One last question. I'm so sorry to my colleagues. Have you put the RFP out yet?
I don't think we've put that on the street yet, no.
Not yet, no.
Are you going to have a scope when you send it out? A scope of the expectation and what you're looking for?
Yes, we will. We're working with, we're waiting for the CFO to work with him.
Got it.
So once we.
He's just starting.
Yes, exactly.
Good luck.
So time-wise, it was, we're new in the RFP process, so we're waiting for him to get up to speed, and then we'll be working with him on the RFP.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so spend a little money to save a lot of money.
That's the idea.
Adam, you're next.
Thanks. I have a lot to say about this one in a good way, but I'll just start with the simple bottom line up front. Yes to all three recommendations to me. I mean, it's common sense. The city in 2020 issued a strategic blueprint that was a complete failure. It didn't go to SIFOC, didn't go to City Council. It was just issued around Christmas Eve, and it offered a hyperlink to the school district report. There was no coordination with the school district besides a hyperlink, right? So to be totally blunt and without crossing the FCC lines, I'd say it'd be continued stupidity if the city did not, now 5+ years later, actually do a real strategic plan. It's common sense and most communities do it. And Framingham is far behind other communities. So I want to thank you, Sean, and Todd, and Leroy, our other appointee, Nicole online. I see Bill in the back. Any other SIFOC members I don't recognize. I really appreciate all the work you do as volunteers, and you really come together as a team to bring these ideas forward. Your number one recommendation to endorse just the simple aspect of having a report and an RFP process, that's common sense, yes. It doesn't have to happen right this month through the budget crisis. There's also state grants that are available. There's numerous ways to fund this. Request education as a named city priority. I'm on the school committee, of course. Number 3, demand improved city financial transparency. I'd probably say request or, gently ask. But yes, of course, more transparency should happen. So thank you again for stepping up and putting this before us. I saw some of the city council coverage from last night where I know former SIFOC member and current city councilor Mary Kate Feeney said some really good things that I would say align well here about just the need to better strategically plan so when future budget cycles come up, there's more coordination and less drama and stress and structural deficits than we have now. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Kyle's up next.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you. This initiative is, well, anyway, let me ask my question first, and then I'll say what I was going to say. I appreciate this presentation. This 18-year low local education funding as percentage of city tax revenue in FY26. So this is comparing ourselves to ourselves over 18 years or peer communities.
Yeah, and I'm going to preface this with, again, these were maybe some intentionally provocative headline-grabbing numbers. And I went back and looked at it and realized that, it's numbers when they're, when they're rolled up to a single number out of a lot of financial data can abstract some important nuance. I think this one, and I noted here that this is not including Chapter 70 aid, which was a significant increase over that same time frame. So I think what I want to convey with this is without the clear, consistent, transparent reporting, the public can take any of these numbers that they glean from the intermittently published data from the city and take whatever they need to take away from it. So I think I want to de-emphasize these numbers for any of the committee, school committee, or the public. This is stuff that has been put out there. I want to kind of maybe combat that and say that, it can be misconstrued. And I think this is one of the important points, that having really well thought through, structured, consistent financial reporting across all departments within the city would help to avoid.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Tremblay.
Sean, Todd, thank you, and to the other members of SciFoc, and also to Dan, who I've been working with as well, and for the feedback. I appreciate the report tonight, and knowing that Framingham Public Schools are a partner with you in this. I do think this, as we've discussed in the past, a great opportunity for reciprocity across the various branches of government. And it seems to me that when we have these future budget discussions, that when everyone's pulling in the same direction and we all want high achievement for students and it matters to everybody, suddenly it becomes a budget priority at every level. It's just one example of that. So for the interested public, we've been working on, and the school committee hasn't quite a full update on that, though some of you may be aware, of a dashboard that I've been trying to build out that shows what we're monitoring. And this goes back to conversations about, not everybody in the city necessarily is monitoring the same things. Well, we may all be concerned about graduation rate and chronic absenteeism. There may be other areas of interest of what kinds of club offerings or athletic participation, or how we're expanding our arts programming, and trying to create a dashboard for all of those of interest. So I just want to restate and underscore publicly our commitment, our partnership with you as you go forward in this work. However you may bring on an outside consultant to help with the strategic development of that, just know that the Framingham Public Schools will be a partner with you in that work, and hopefully a trendsetter.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And I also enjoyed reading the findings document from your March 2026 memo. And I don't want to use the word eye-opening. I feel like we kind of experience it every day, but just to see it written down, some of the things on the paper are Framingham the schools received some positive feedback, but the city itself, inconsistent on practice of strategic planning, not one clear strategic document to guide decision-making. The city needs a unified strategic plan. Thank you for putting that down. I mean, I feel like we needed this report to see it. This needs to be out here. It needs to be public. There's no clear evidence that a plan was formally adopted. All right, the plan lacks citizen-created shared vision, updated strategic objectives, metrics, and implementation plan. Like that, it's worrisome to me. It's worrisome that they don't share a common understanding of what strategy means and how it functions. Right, this plan, I'll let you go through it. I won't read it word for word, but thank you for flagging this stuff, and thank you for putting this together in one document and sharing with us. We appreciate that. As far as resolution goes, do you have a resolution, or did you want to draft one and maybe get it over to us for review, and we can talk about maybe getting that on an updated agenda? And that would be to support an RFP, whether or not there's agreement or not. We don't have to decide that right now, but if you wanted to send over some materials like that, I think I'd be open to receiving them.
Sounds good.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on SciFoc? We got a couple more. Brent first, then Adam.
I just want to quickly say thank you for this work, and I certainly would support an RFP for this process. I think we as a city have sort of struggled to develop this, and getting a consultant who's able to not only help create this initial one, but hopefully give us some building blocks and processes that we can use in future years would be a great help to our city. I know many city councilors have articulated frustration with some of the same things that SciFoc is pointing out, so I hope and trust that they will be supportive, as would I. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, you're up.
I never want to rush anything, but I also don't want to have a resolution just to have a resolution. So I'd ask you, how important is it to have an actual resolution that we would have to wordsmith and take potentially weeks to go through, versus a simple motion of, summarizing your 3 action steps tonight if the committee was willing? Just curious. I'm not, because I can only speak for myself, but I was ready before that last conversation to move forward.
I think we're just looking for your support. So, the simplest form that it could take is probably easy for us. So we don't need a formal resolution if that's going to be work intensive, but we're happy to just, accept your support in any form.
So to follow up, sorry.
I'll amplify on that. And given that those were my words, and so let me clarify what I'm going for here. To put it in context, I think to the point that we're in a very challenging financial moment right now, and I think as much support as possible to the mayor and the CFO to kind of make this decision to, as you said, invest a little bit to gain a lot later on. I think having that support would be very good for them. So whatever simple form that takes from this body would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, and to me, thank you for that, and to my colleagues as well for your comments. Very thoughtful, balancing fiscal responsibility with some opportunities here. I mean, to me, what I would say is just a simple motion right now to validate what we just heard, if we agree. Something like, the committee accepts, thanks, and supports the SciFoc members' presentation, and just using that slide. Seek a city strategic blueprint and RFP process. Request education as a named city priority and support improved city financial transparency. To me, that's a good blanket statement that shows that we agree and validate what was presented to us without having to get in the weeds of how much is it going to cost, when's it going to happen. Just a simple statement to help give momentum to what the SciFoc is working to do as our appointees are presenting to us. So hearing silence and no one saying absolutely not, how about we have a second for discussion?
Was that a motion?
Sure, I'll make that as a motion if someone could second.
I just like to see it written, so I got accept. Yeah, do you have a draft already? Accepts?
I just typed it up on my phone. Would you like me to email it to you?
I do like seeing it written, so if you don't mind sending that to me, I wouldn't. Yeah, okay. So we have a motion, we have a second, and then, we have a motion. Is anyone seconding it for discussion?
I'm happy to second.
All right, we have a second. Do you mind if we just? Do you want to start? Yeah, sure.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
Jen.
I'm not for this right yet because I don't know enough about it to say, yes, I support this. I don't know what the scope would be for the city. I don't know the scope would be in our portion of the school committee. And honestly, I would like to know more information about it. Yes, you gave us this great presentation. That's great. But in order for me to go, oh yeah, let's go for an RFP where we don't even know what the RFP is going to look like, what that scope is, what it's going to look for, how it's, I mean, obviously the RFP has to come in and they say this is what we expect. I know how the RFP process works, but we need to kind of dictate a little bit of that, not us, you guys, what that scope is, what you're looking for in order for them to give you an RFP. So I would not support Adam's motion tonight, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to support it in the future. I just don't have enough information to say, yeah, this is a great idea, let's go spend money on going out to RFP.
I'll add that I tend to side with that, but I'd like to see the motion. Did you send it to me? Okay, sorry. Any further discussion? So I can read it out for the group. Accept, thank, and support the SciFoc members' presentation. Seek a city strategic blueprint and RFP process. Request education as a named city priority and support improved city financial transparency. Kyle, go ahead.
So is this a motion to support the creation of the RFP, the process of creating the RFP, where we continue to have input on that? Because I think that answers some of your concerns, does it not? That
I'd have to see some of that. I'd like to see some of what it's looking for to understand it, to support it.
Right, would we have input on would we continue to have input on the RFP itself?
Do you want to look at it? Adam.
Yeah, thanks. Would like to respond as he was addressing me. Thank you. Yes, in the motion I said RFP process, not RFP, intentionally to meet your goal of this is just a broad process shall begin. When there's been other RFPs that have impacted the school over the years, the school committee has had future votes on those type of things, or conversations, votes, transparency.
Right, because, not having a process that, I mean, it seems like a great idea that, we need a strategic plan, and it seems like we don't have the expertise in-house to create the one that we need. But it also, on the other hand, seems like a way for, the city to sort of offload the burden of governing to a private contractor in some way. And, I mean, for a partnership driven by the city to create something like that, I'm for, because I don't think we have the expertise in-house to do it. But I'm always concerned about like handing over the reins of government to a outside contractor.
But in that case, though, that almost every municipality that does this, and it's of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, I think the MMA has cited 280 have strategic blueprints. That is the normal process, but it doesn't have to be a private contractor, and government's always the leader. It can be a nonprofit, it can be higher education. UMass has an arm that does these. Again, we're not voting on that piece of it. The motion is simply to support our appointed officials who are coming to us asking for help, and I believe that if we say no, it goes to the problem dating back to the last 6 years that I've been talking about. Thank you.
Makes sense. Thanks.
All right, any further discussion? Go ahead, Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify here, we don't need to wait for the RFP process and for consultants to tell us about 2 and 3, right? We can do that now.
That's
Is that
correct.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, motion on the floor. We will go, all those in favor, raise your hands. And opposed, 8-1, abstain. 8-1-0, passes. Thank you for your support, thank you for your presentation. And no further questions.
Thank you. We look forward to coming back and discussing this more in a future session. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh boy. Next up, superintendent's update.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and happy Teacher Appreciation Week to our educators to follow on the chair's earlier comments this evening, and also for National School Nurses Week today, Nurses Week, but today specifically School Nurses Day. Also in my message this morning, I failed to acknowledge our nutrition team. There was a nutrition day, and then in April, there was Administrative Professionals Day. There's a lot of appreciation days, many of which I've missed, but I want to hopefully catch it all. So we're grateful for all of our Framingham Public Schools staff, and happy Appreciation Week to all of you. Just a few brief announcements this evening. Again, thanks to our students who presented this evening from the Elementary Student Council. This is a great example. All 9 of our elementary schools have student councils, and we look forward to, for those, we'll send an invitation to all of you to attend on June 10th. From 10 to 1 at the Farley Building. If you're able to make it, great. If not, we'll try to capture some video of that to give you a highlights reel to enjoy, to see our students in action and to see them with public speaking. And so many of the skills that presented tonight was not just about the Stapleton work that's happening and the excitement and just the time capsule which connected to a city initiative, but also public speaking, preparing to public speak, working with their administration, working with the school committee. It's a tremendous effort by students who are in 5th grade to have the courage to come up before a board here in this space and in this room. And I just want to, once again, thank them for their courageousness. I know they've left to go hopefully to bed for school tomorrow, but just I'm grateful for all of them and to all of you for entertaining them this evening. So thank you for that. I'm also pleased to announce that I've submitted on behalf of the school committee, as we've talked about in previous meetings, with the MASC-MASS joint conference over the years. It's nice to have Framingham, in many ways, has been a leader, has been a trendsetter, and to be featured in panel discussions. And I hope that our application for a community school presentation is accepted. It's been submitted, and as I mentioned previously, this year is, for the first time, is jointly adding the Massachusetts Association of School Business Officials. So Lincoln's side of the house is now joining the party, and so MASC, MASS, and MASBO, MASBO are all part of this. So I'll keep the committee posted on that, but it'll be nice to have a panel discussion around our Community Schools Initiative, which the committee will hear about at our next meeting from McCarthy Elementary School and the great work that's happening there in terms of wraparound support for our families and how we are creating a community school modeled on what we saw in Anaheim, California as a best practice. And I know you'll be very impressed and really pleased to see the work that's happening there. And it would be nice to showcase that. And my final comment is this is one of those unique opportunities that we have in school leadership to see partnership with the union at the Framingham Teachers Association level, but also at the state level with MTA, the Massachusetts Teachers Association, and at the national level, the the National Education Association, which, as you'll hear next meeting, is providing the grant funding to do some of this community school work because it's recognizing Framingham as a national leader in this work. So it'll be another exciting and encouraging, I hope, to all of you presentation at the next meeting around our community schools initiative. And so this conference session submission relates to that. Also recently invited Rich Robles to join on a panel for an arts learning presentation. We've been another example in the Commonwealth around arts education, and we've been asked to be on a panel to talk about the value of arts education and how that's impacted legislation. And so knowing that Rich has been passionate about this work, I invited Rich Robles to join me on that invitation, and he's graciously accepted. So I will say Framingham will be well represented at the MASC, MASS, and MASBO conference coming up in the fall. And then finally, just an announcement around the school committee transition. We've been talking about a transition to a new space, from this space to using the space at the Farley Auditorium. We've been working to upgrade that space to make it, as I've said before, this space is really the work that's done here with the government channel is really quite seamless. They make it look so easy. We've been working to replicate that to the best that we can at the school side of our operation. And we were looking at a target of July 15th to try to make that transition happen. We'll still reserve that date. We may have to move that depending on what happens. We'll get into the budget conversation later and whether or not that's resolved or if there's more public discourse around the budget. It may be that we consider starting that in August so that we don't create an additional challenge or accessibility impediment for our community in getting public access and engagement in the budget process. But more to come on that. But we are benefiting from some one-time earmark funds that were specifically dedicated to do some of these upgrades at the Farley Auditorium that allow for accessibility, including our audio and AV systems in that space. So very excited to eventually get to that. And so we're targeting now finally as a date of July 15th. Again, I'll come back to the committee if that's to be changed. And again, the reason for a change, if there were to be one, would be largely based on what kind of community involvement we anticipate with the budget, which is normally resolved well before that time in any given school year. But there, and I might as well just comment on that as my third update. As has been mentioned before, and as Mr. Lynch will report out shortly, the City Council met yesterday evening, as many of you know. For the public who may not have watched, there was the mayor's recommendation on the budget. As the committee well knows, the budget that was put forward, the mayor's proposed budget was a reduction of $2 million to the school committee's proposed budget. And so that was presented to the City Council yesterday evening, which is typically referred from the City Council to Finance and Operations Subcommittee for review and discussion before being brought back to the full City Council for a first reading in June. Last night, it was rejected essentially out of hand in an 8-1 vote to not go forward. And so there's discussions that are continuing. So it's not been yet sent in that normal course of events, but the mayor is working with division heads, including the school department, to right size to the extent that the mayor can get a budget that will have the support of the City Council. We don't know quite yet what that number is or what that number means or what further work we may have to do, but I just wanted to provide that update tonight to the committee for context. So clearly we're not out of the woods with our budget. And you heard some of that tonight. You heard some public comment tonight around, and it's an interesting example, right? It's with every decision. So what was being discussed, and for the general public who may not be as aware of the Brophy families who are very much in the know, to some extent, around the impact of bumping that can happen in a budget situation. And so the case that was described tonight was the result of a position that the committee may recall that was done in the first round of budget reductions, which eliminated a vice principal at one of our elementary schools because of our declining enrollment. So it's related. 750 roughly students to date are no longer enrolled when by comparison over this date of last year, and as a result, we've scaled back some of our staff and administrators accordingly. Well, you saw the outcome of a scaling back of one administrator at one school and what that ripple effect created tonight in this House by people feeling very personal. They have personal connections and they have relationships built. And I would expect you're going to see a lot more of that to come as the sort of bumping takes place with positions that are necessarily reduced. So this is a sort of a forecast of what's to come. And what you heard tonight was frustration. And just to be clear, it's not to Mr. Foster, who has been named at the podium tonight, and just to give him that important disclaimer, this is not about his performance as a vice principal at the school. This is the result of bumping and an approach that I took to seniority of a position, of reducing an administrator and having another administrator who's in the district to fill that vacancy based on that position being reduced. That's the outcome of that. But what you heard tonight was a clearly impassioned parent community about a relationship they've built with an administrator. And regrettably, I expect we'll have a lot more of those conversations to come. So I wanted to give a little bit of context. I'll brief the committee more. Certainly you'll know more after tomorrow's evening's discussion with other division heads and with the mayor as to what the next steps are with the budget. But I do anticipate we'll have to be looking at additional reductions to our budget. So more to come on that. So with that somber closing of my remarks, that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right. Seeing none, I think we're going to continue.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
The next one is, we'll turn it over to Ann Ludas, Assistant Superintendent for Pre-K-12 Education Update.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Joanne, I have a couple of brief announcements before I'll be using that presentation. First, the 5-day preschool and pre-K implementation working group met earlier today, and the topics that we discussed were actually a review of prior topics and addressing any lingering concerns about those topics. We addressed those concerns, identified outstanding concerns, and identified items that require further discussion for resolution. We refined the upcoming agenda to reflect those current priorities and added an additional meeting, which will be held on June 17th. We actually had built in an extra meeting for June 3rd that didn't have any topics. It was kind of the buffer, but because today we just kind of paused, the staff brought back some legitimate concerns. A lot of the conversations we had had in the earlier meetings were kind of skeleton structures because we didn't have schedules, that the administration didn't know teaching assignments for next year and didn't have enough details about enrollment for next year. And now that that information is clearer, she's going to, over the next few weeks, consolidate the decisions, build out those schedules with more clarity, and put those outcomes together in advance of the June 3rd meeting so that we can resolve all of those and then make sure we have an extra meeting in case there's more topics that come from those finalized plans to address at a meeting on June 17th. So we added that extra meeting, which I think is great. There's also another outcome, just to give you some of the specifics of the conversations. The school leader had proposed a dismissal, a change to the dismissal procedures to free up some of the staff on a rotating basis so that they could meet with their paraprofessionals after school for longer periods of time, once a week. And since that has never been executed in that school, the staff were kind of wondering, having thought about it for the last few weeks, they came back and said, we're not really confident that that can be executed. So we actually discussed it, talked through the different challenges, and agreed that they would actually test it out now and gather some data this spring before the school year ends to see if it works or if another idea might be a better fit. It is also worth noting that what the school leader was doing was trying to find additional time for them above and beyond the structure that had originally been designed. So I give kudos to Kelly Napierski for trying to provide as much, like listening to her staff and really try to provide as much support as she possibly can. Again, the next meeting is June 3rd, where we will review the work that Kelly is doing over the next few weeks to make sure that everybody feels confident, continue some conversations around classroom coverage and team meeting facilitation, and then have an extra meeting left over on June 17th if there are any lingering topics for us to continue. Moving on, I would like to kind of add on to what Deborah said earlier about some great activities and events that have been happening at the high school. It's that time of year where there are some showcases of student work, which are really a great celebration. So in the days leading up to April vacation, I had the pleasure of attending our students' local history fair at Framingham High School. And at this fair, this was the culmination of their local history project, which I find, I am fascinated by Framingham history, so I love that this is actually embedded in the U.S. history curriculum. So it was inspired by National History Day. The core tasks for these students were to educate their community about underrepresented people or groups in our local history. Students were asked to design an original, thoughtful memorial honoring the experiences and contributions of these groups and how they contributed to the growth of the United States. And they formed small groups to focus on specific demographics, including Black and African American individuals, women, Indigenous people, and poor and immigrant populations. The students delivered 2 products, each group, and they created an exhibition board with a 3D visual representation of their historical argument. The boards included a written component discussing the topic's lack of historical representation in our culture and the individual's contributions to America. What was fascinating was talking with the students about how we know so much about Crispus Attucks here in Framingham because of that local connection, but if you go out to, say, Minnesota, have they even heard of Crispus Attucks? And to just think about, you know, that history that lived right here on the land that we're walking on. So students also integrated visual evidence such as maps and primary sources, and of course had their captions explaining all of that. But students also had to conceptualize a memorial explaining their choices regarding material, color, design, and symbolism, and they had to write a justification for that, and they were really thoughtful and profound. So it was just a wonderful opportunity for me to hear students talking about local history and really make connections to what they've been learning about U.S. history and the impact, the local impact that people in Framingham or the surrounding communities have made. Some of the figures that they researched and presented were Crispus Attucks, Mum Bet, Peter Salem, as well as the experiences of Irish immigrant workers and the Indigenous Nipmuc people. And it was just really just incredibly inspiring to see. And I want to give a special thank you to Framingham High history teacher Taylor Collins, who put this work together, and of course the students for their outstanding work. And then finally, building off of what Deborah talked about earlier, last Wednesday, April 29th, was the Spring into Arts Festival, which celebrated just student talent from across various realms of Framingham High School, including, it ended with the Poetry Slam, but it started with a collaboration, well, this was a collaboration between the Fine and Performing Arts Department, the English Department, and the school librarian to just really celebrate the diverse talents of the students at Framingham High School. The evening kicked off with an art show in the library with just tremendous work, 3D printing, sculptures, photography. Like when I say sculptures, I mean some of them, I think they were maybe paper mache or something like that, but also pottery. And then of course, paper arts, painting, sketching, all of it. And probably dozens of awards were distributed to the students in everything for a variety of mediums. Outstanding achievement for photography, 1, 2, and 3. We offered 3 levels of the course. Digital art, ceramics, drawing and painting, 3D art, and also for the studio art honors and AP art and design courses. it was spectacular. I was taking pictures of the art because I was like, I don't have enough time to process just the depth of and complexity of the pieces, and there were so many of them. And then after that, I headed over to the auditorium where I was able to experience a wonderful musical performance by the high school's a cappella group called Tonal Eclipse. I always love the little puns that those a cappella groups have. They really set the tone and got the crowd excited before the poetry slam. And you already heard about the poetry slam, so I won't go into detail about that, except to say that Deborah downplayed her part in that slam. I am still thinking about her original poem and the way she delivered it. She is just a wonder of talents. And I mean, it's still, Dr. Tremblay and Mr. Lynch know I went to work the next day and I was talking about your poem and just, it was brilliant, brilliantly done. Uncle Sam, I would just listen to it again, and I already told her I would not put her on the spot to make her do it here, but if you do get a chance to get her to perform that for you, it is incredible. So even though she wasn't competing, I would have given you a 10 out of a 10.0 right there. That was the highest score, but it was just phenomenal. So I just wanted to give her a shout out for that. So with that, those are all of my announcements other than my presentation about the educational program for the school building project. Are there any questions about those updates? All right, then I will move on. So consider this the launch of a series of presentations that I will be delivering about the educational program for the school building project. As you know, we are working with the Massachusetts School Building Association on a pre-K to 5 early education center that will be, kind of replacing, the idea is replacing Hemingway, whether it's on that site or at the Bethany Road site, of course, is still to be determined. The educational program is a requirement in this process, and it is a lengthy, complex, comprehensive document. And so, given that you'll all have to vote on it, I didn't want you to have just, 5 days or so to read this. So I thought it would be a good idea for me to roll this out over the course of time so that you already have a preview of what is to come. So tonight, I'm actually not going to talk about our educational program. What I'm going to tell you is what the requirements are, kind of a very brief, quick overview of those requirements so you kind of have a sense of what the expectations are in this submission. So Joanna, you can move right to slide 3. So the educational program is about teaching and learning, but it goes so much more beyond that. And it is actually submitted twice. It is submitted as part of the preliminary design program, often referred to as the PDP. The deadline for that submission is July 24th, but you'll have to vote on that earlier. So you'll have to vote on that in June. So you'll be seeing this before the end of the month, the full document before the end of the month. But the idea is that in this preliminary design phase, there is a development of theoretical decision making, but then in the second phase that is due in November, that's the preferred schematic report where we have made more decisions. The school building committee has made more decisions, and then I have tightened up the educational program so that it aligns with the preferred schematic design. So I just wanted you to understand that this was a 2-part process. So this first one is going to actually include various scenarios. Well, if the building is here or if the building is there, because right now we don't know where that building will be. Next slide, please. So at this point, I'm really just going to talk about the different buckets or categories for the actual program. The first is the core educational foundation. And what's really great about the MSBA is that they really want to understand what is your philosophy about teaching, how do you implement it, and then how does the building support that? So the first thing they want to know is what is your philosophy, what is the why behind what you're teaching, and then what are your goals, and then how do you support that with your instruction. So we do have to state our teaching philosophy, go into an in-depth explanation of our educational curricular program, and then talk about who was responsible for the development of this. This process is quite lengthy. Many people are involved. Recently, in fact, just earlier this week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, I think it was Monday, Amy Kane sent out, Monday or early Tuesday, Amy Kane sent out an email to the entire community, every email address we had in Parent Square, asking for input on this educational vision for this school. That's on top of the visioning sessions that are happening with the community and the visioning sessions that are happening with the FPS working group of volunteers. And anybody who wanted to be part of that working group was invited to join. It went out to all FPS staff. So, really tried to bring in as many different unique voices as we possibly could. Next slide, please, Joanna. So then after the school building committee, after the MSBA has an understanding of our instructional philosophy, then the other kind of logistical pieces that kind of create the structure of the school are, what grades are you teaching? How many students do you have in each class? And how do you schedule the classes in the day? So very concrete logistical pieces. And then for every one of these categories that I'm sharing with you, it's what's happening now, and are there any proposed changes in the new school? So if you're going to change the school schedule based on the new building, or when you move into the new building, how are you changing it? What will that look like, and why are you changing it? We're not looking to change the school schedule, but I'm using that as an example. Next slide, please. Still talking about curriculum delivery. What are the core subjects? What curriculum do you use? How is it delivered? What's the pedagogy? Do you need science labs? We don't, because this is an elementary school, but I have to address the fact that we don't need a science lab. What support services do you have? How are those delivered? What kind of spaces would you need? And then what's the overall organizational structure of your school administration? That's about what is your administrative team, what does that look like, as well as how is your school kind of structured. For example, when the Fuller Middle School project was when the educational program was put together for that, we talked about how there were grade level teams. So we would want to make sure that the teams, the different teachers and classrooms for that team, were able to have places to congregate and meet. So we talked about the different ways that students might have to be organized or staff might have to be organized. So that's what they mean by structure. Next slide, please. The special education has a lot of emphasis in this plan, and I thank Lori Bruce and Courtney Blocko for all of their help in making sure that everything that I put into this plan is Loctite. These are non-negotiables. I mean, everything about accessibility and inclusion and ensuring that students have their FAPE free and appropriate public education rights ensured, all of that is built into this. There are some things that are just automatic. In fact, one thing that's automatic is that elementary classrooms will have 2 sinks. I think that's awesome. They need that. They have to wash their hands. They do projects in there, but that's just an automatic. But we have to actually justify how we're making sure spaces are equal for all students, so that students that are being taught in substantially separate programs, our special education sub-separate programs, have equal access, that they're not isolated, that there's no stigma attached, like we're not going to have signs on the classrooms that say ASD classroom or multi-disabilities classroom. We don't have any of those practices in this district anyway, but they want us to actually affirm. They ask us to assess and evaluate our existing practices and make sure that we're taking corrective action if needed. Next slide, please. This is where I have a lot of fun. They talk about teacher planning. How do teachers plan? So thinking about the structure of a school building and how you're supporting teacher planning in that design is just phenomenal to me. We are all about collaboration. Teachers work in teams with their coaches on a weekly basis. They are constantly co-planning. They're working with their co-teachers, whether it's an ESL teacher or a special educator, and they need that space and time to do it. And I loved being able to kind of put that design together. Professional development, how do we provide professional development, what spaces are needed, and also that professional development is multi-layered because the other factor here is what kind of professional development will be necessary, if any, for the new building design. And one of the, an example of that would be if we have breakout spaces that are just outside of the classroom where students can kind of extend their learning when they're working on projects and break out into that space, do we need to provide training for staff on how to best utilize that breakout space? So little things like that. Does the design of the building require teachers to have training on how to best utilize the space in that building? And then, of course, talking about pre-K and kindergarten and the different nuances there and the offerings there. Lunch, how is lunch going to be served? The number of servings, how will students proceed through the line? Those are all things that are included in here as part of the operational structure of the building. Next slide. Spatial relationships, this is one where we're working as a group at the next week's meeting. We'll be doing bubble diagrams where we look at spatial relationships, and that's really talking about what spaces need to be next to each other and how would you lay them out inside of a school. So that's going to be a fun one. We have a huge section on security. What safety and security, of course, is important. So what features must we have in this building? And then not just when we talk about site adjacency, that last column, that's talking about the outside of the building. So what has to be going on the outside? That's about outdoor learning, that's about play space, and that's also about, think about drop off and pick up with a school for 985 kids. That's, I'm telling you, I'm spending, I keep bringing that up with the architect, 985 kids. And I'm also going to point out, and this is written into the plan, into the program, if you have 985 students and it's a neighborhood school, if we're also looking at the zones and all of that, I was talking with Caleb Smith, principal of McCarthy, and because so many of the students that attend McCarthy live in that neighborhood, parents drive them to school. And I mentioned this to the architect, students who live in the neighborhood don't necessarily walk, their parents drive them. So you have to have space for the buses, but you might have a lot of parents in this 985 student school that are driving their kids and dropping them off and picking them up every day. So you have to have long driveways, a lot of space around the building probably for the cars to wrap around for that kind of drop off and pickup. Multiple lines probably. So I love that the architects have to figure that out, not us, but it's definitely something that we have to be mindful of. And that's it. Those are the different buckets. It gets broken down. I'm not finished writing up the final program. I will get it to you as early as I possibly can. It's nearly finished, but because we haven't finished our educational visioning sessions, it's very hard for me to finalize a huge piece of this program. And then it will go through some editing and feedback from the architectural team, and just to make sure I've hit all of the marks that the MSBA is asking for, but then I want it in your hands as soon as possible so that you have it to read. It's going to be over 60 pages, I anticipate, so I am so sorry in advance. That's why I'm doing these, to kind of chunk things up for you a little bit so that you have a preview, but I just wanted to give you that update there. So I'll take any questions at this point.
And then we're anticipating the vote will be on June 3rd.
Well, so we've built in 2 dates, June 3rd, but if you need to continue discussing, then June 17th would be the last date possible, yes.
Questions, comments? Go ahead.
Thanks so much, Ms. Ludis. Curious how many people responded to the community survey?
So as of yesterday afternoon, we were over 50 students who had responded to 50 responses to the survey. It went out to families, it went out to staff. I don't know what time it went out, but I'm pretty sure it went out on Monday. But it went out this week, so it had only, at that point, had been out for maybe 24 hours. Haven't checked in today to see how many more since then. But I was pretty pleased with that response so quickly after the survey went out.
Great, thank you.
right, thank you for that presentation. 985 is a lot of elementary school kids for one school.
Yep.
I'm curious, with all of the, all of the regulations that you're following on this, most of them very, I think, wise and well-intentioned. Does DESE not have a guideline for how many students you should have in an elementary school?
No, they do not. We are actually, it's funny, at the last working group meeting, or no, the school building committee meeting, is that where we saw the comparison to the other schools that were, yeah, it was in both. Thank you. There are so many of these meetings, I can't keep straight which information is being shared in which meeting. There are actually a lot of elementary schools. Northbridge has one that's over 1,000. I think Holliston was another one that recently is either just built or is building a school about that same size. Seems big to me. I've raised that several times. What I will tell you, this is kind of a preview to some of the information you'll hear about in future presentations, or you'll read about in the program, is this school, I anticipate having 6 classrooms at every grade level, as opposed to the current Hemingway, which has 4. But it also will have space for a lot of our sub-separate programs. We have a very large ASD population, especially this current kindergarten class. We had to open up new classrooms, and it has created a space squeeze in some of our schools. And then when we think about some of our other programs where there's one classroom of that program in that school, when they can be moved to a place where they can be with other peers, and the staff can be with other staff members who are teaching the same, and make it easier for them to collaborate. We'll be able to do that in this building. We'll be able to have maybe a dozen or so special education specific classrooms, including perhaps our multi-disabilities classroom, really give the students that have the greatest physical needs the most advantage when it comes to the newest space with the most modern equipment. I say all of that because, wait a minute, we're going from 4 classrooms per grade to 6 classrooms per grade? Wait a minute, what's going to happen? Our enrollment is going down. However, what this is going to do is allow us to take some of our classrooms out of schools where they're kind of being creative with classroom space or with other instructional space or support space, and bring that over to the new school. For example, McCarthy Elementary School, Dr. Tremblay talked about how that was building to become a community school. Well, that requires space. And so I've walked the building with Mr. Smith and a few others to try and identify where that space is coming from and how we can do that in a way that doesn't impact instruction and education for kids. Well, if we can pull a couple of classrooms out of that school, then that's going to release the pressure valve in that building. And then we have other buildings where students are in classrooms that are undersized for what they're being used for. Or King Elementary School, the principal there, Mr. Bergeron, would love to convert a classroom into a library, so he has a larger library than what he has now. So there are lots of ways that we can pull from other buildings to ease that pressure and fill those additional classrooms in each grade.
Thank you for that explanation. I mean, that all makes a lot of sense, and I see the motivation behind this. I am still a little concerned about the size. Do you know if there's any data? I mean, you're the curriculum and performance metrics data guru here, on social emotional development, test scores, all that stuff, comparing elementary school size. Does that exist? Does anybody research that?
I love that you called me a guru. I'm going to go home and tell my husband that tonight. So thank you for that. I can look for some of that research, but one thing that I'll tell you is, I've said 985 elementary students. This is also in the educational program, and something that the architect is already familiar with, is how to take a large school and create smaller spaces. So think of it as, in my vision, there's like a pre-K to 1 hub or section of the building, and then a 2 to 3 section of grades 2 to 3 section of the building, and a grades 4 to 5. So it feels smaller, and then all of the common spaces like the library, the gymnasium, the cafeteria are all kind of centrally located. So students can enter, maybe there are separate entrances, students can enter and kind of feel like they're part of a smaller school community, and then use the cafeteria, the gym at the time that's appropriate for them. I talked about the size of the cafeteria. You have 985 students. You can only have so many lunch servings a day. So think about how much bigger that lunch is going to be. The architect has already talked to me about, kind of talked me off the ledge, I guess you could say, about the way that they can configure that space. Even putting the serving line in the middle of the cafeteria instead of on one end of the cafeteria creates different spaces, or even creating partitions in the cafeteria, having a quieter section of the cafeteria for students who have auditory, sensory, needs. So there are lots of ways that they can make a large building feel smaller. So in that regard, I can tell you we're already addressing that in the way we're talking about the school, but I'll look for some research for you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, this sounds like elementary university here.
It does, doesn't it? That's how it feels for me, yeah.
Adam's up first, and then Jen.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. I know the school building committee is also going to see this first, so June 1st goes to the school building committee, then it comes back to us. Just briefly on the commentary about the school building size, a couple points. Ultimately, the school committee a few years ago in district, actually I think we applied 2019, 2020, multiple years looking at a large school for a lot of reasons, and it was those favorable outcomes we've talked about. If this is built at Bethany, 2/3 of our school population lives in that region. There are a lot of people down there who need that neighborhood school, and having a lot of seats will be helpful. Shorter bus rides and less bus routes, more open space, and school choice reform, that's still pending, but there's opportunity that more people who choose their first choice will get it if a larger school was to be opened in this region. And so my final 2 points are, just because you have that number that the MSBA set does not mean you actually have to fill it. The Fuller example was 620. Fuller opened at 587. Fuller has since gone up and down. And so it's the top level number that from a financial perspective is a huge win that the MSBA said yes to our request. It's typically a negotiation, and Fuller was actually less than the community at the time back in 2017 wanted. And so there's a lot of intricacies here, and you're absolutely right to raise the aspect of what it is. I'm just sharing some of the history and the benefits that I see from getting a larger school than we currently have because of all the positive outcomes that can come from it. Also, to reiterate, being mindful that just because it's that top level number, that's how much space there is in the top level that is eligible, but it does not mean you actually have to increase enrollment to that exact number. Thank you.
Can I add on one comment to that? The other thing that I think ties into that is that when we're talking about enrollment in this district, the earlier grades are not seeing the decline in enrollment that we're seeing at the upper grades. So think about the conversations we've been having about the budget. It's really the secondary schools, the middle schools and the high school where there's been a much more significant cut or decrease in staffing due to the enrollment numbers. So when we're looking at the enrollment at the elementary levels, if people do say to you, wait a minute, why do we need a new school that size if our enrollment is going down? We're not seeing that trend at the elementary level.
If I'm remembering correctly from the school building committee meeting, the general best practice is that a school should be at about 85% of its maximum capacity. So the information that you shared about how this will allow us to release some of the pressure valves that are happening at some of our elementary schools that are currently beyond that sort of recommended 85%, I think is a point well taken. I think our community has so many good uses, I think, for a new elementary school on the south side. But I think this will benefit Framingham Public Schools writ large. So I just wanted to add that.
Thanks. I just have a quick question. Even though I know we're talking about the enrollment size, but are there going to be 6 pre-K classrooms as well as grades 1 through 5? Because I know the expansion is going to be there as well, going up to, and I'm assuming those are included in that 985 number.
So now you're getting into the nuances of the project. So the 985 is only grades K to 5. We went back and forth with the MSBA repeatedly. So pre-K would be on top of that. And whether or not pre-K will be in that building, so hear me out, this is very confusing, depends on the site location. If we are building a 985 student school on the current Hemingway site on Water Street, think about, I'm just gonna say, yeah, you're already seeing it, right? You can't add on pre-K to that. So then we would look at ways using that pressure valve process to identify places where we could release pressure in other schools that we have in the district where we could add pre-K classrooms. We wouldn't get as much pre-K out of that if we had to go that route, but we would be able to get a few additional classrooms out of that model. We maybe wouldn't be able to release as many pressure valves in other buildings, but that would be a decision to be made down the road. If we are able to build the facility at Bethany Road instead, then we're talking about adding on pre-K. I would actually recommend maybe one fewer pre-K classroom because not everybody is going to take advantage of the universal pre-K. And so we want to leave seats in kindergarten for those students and families that chose to go a different route, so maybe 5 of those. We would also, though, have to add a few preschool classrooms because, again, we're talking about the inclusion model and the need for students who receive services starting at age 3.
If I can add one disclaimer as well on that, on the enrollment number, and we were very transparent with MSBA on that. At the time the enrollment study was done by the MSBA, you'll recall that Framingham was questioning the MBTA Communities Act and what the impact that would have for housing and the resulting number of students that might be going to school as a result, right? And our enrollment was not 750 less students than it is now. We were very forthcoming with the MSBA as to whether or not they wanted to reevaluate that design enrollment number. And they were saying, no, this is still the design enrollment number for us. So to Mr. Freudberg's earlier point, we don't have to fill to that capacity. And what is often the case with MSBA partner projects, they're usually underbuilt by the time the students actually occupy. You hear that a lot from projects that they don't overbuild those schools. You walk in the door and it's already full. This gives us some room to have that flexibility. So I do think, but we were very forthcoming with the MSBA about those two dynamics that are no longer in play around enrollment. So. And I appreciated Ann's point around the pre-K number of being one less than kindergarten to accommodate for families who may not elect to have that universal pre-K experience. It's a great point. Thanks, Ann. And I just want to commend Ann for her amazing hard work on the education program. You may recall that Ann wrote the education program for Fuller, and now she's back and she's writing the education program for this school. So thank you, Ann.
But the MSBA changed the requirements, so it was like learning it all over again.
Now you're a pro. Guru.
Any other questions or comments about this? All right, seeing none, thank you so much for your work, and we look forward to hearing more, and we will be hearing from you quite often, I believe, in the next coming meetings. Thank you. Okay, what do we have next? Oh, Executive Director of Finance and Operations update. Turn it over to the Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Lincoln Lynch, to take over.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. First on the agenda tonight is a capital budget update. So a couple projects that we're working on now, working with the city on geothermal phase 2. The Farley solar design work is still ongoing. We're doing design work for a fire alarm at Cameron Middle and Harmony Elementary. And then, as we just discussed, we have two additional MSBA projects than what we just talked about. So we have the elementary school project, the core program, and then we are in the process of 2 accelerated repair projects with the Brophy roof and the Potter roof. So we are working with the OPM and designer, and we are hopefully going to move that forward next summer, so 2027. A couple projects for the summer. We plan to install a new lift at King. We have phase 2 at Juniper Hill, and we have pre-K playground installation at Harmony Grove and McCarthy. And then based on FY27 capital appropriations, we'll also plan to do the high school gym resurfacing. Any questions on capital?
When you mentioned high school gym the high school gym, I also thought you were going to talk about the high school auditorium technology and lighting upgrades. Do you know when those are programmed for, and did the final city approval come through yet?
The final approval, no. No, those are still part of the FY27 capital. We do have an earmark. We are doing some lighting work now. We have a $100,000 earmark for the high school. That will be done by June 30th. So I think the combination of the audio now, the lighting later, will really upgrade that space.
Definitely. The original city council deadline for capital was the end of February in the new charter. Did they extend capital as well with the operating process? I've seen the agendas, but I haven't seen the final votes. And I guess what I'm saying is, if there is time, let's say that they did approve the final high school funding, would this summer work in time, or did their process also derail that plan to have it done this summer?
Yeah, it's my understanding that we do not have approved capital yet, so it was extended with the operating budget.
So the original plan to have this summer be the construction cycle for the high school auditorium is now delayed another year?
Yeah, there was some debate back and forth when we could do that, so it wasn't 100% guaranteed to do this summer. So.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions on capital. Just quick operating update, FY26. I think we have 38 business days left in the fiscal year, so we're closing purchase orders, we're getting invoices to pay. We are still on track to end in the black with minimal savings, so it's really good work by my office, principals, directors, spending their budgets, supporting kids, supporting staff. So far, with 38 days left, we are in a good space as far as spending-wise goes for FY26. Any questions on that? Okay, yep.
Just real quick, I see SPED and occupational education is well above what their budgets were. Is there funding that's supposed to come in for that, that's supposed to offset that? Is that why they're
Yes.
over?
Well, special ed, yes. Occ ed, no. So those are students that go to an agricultural school or another vocational school that has a program that Keefe Tech does not offer. So we have to transport and pay tuition for those schools. So the number of students was a little bit higher than what we had projected.
Okay, and then I also see early ed is over budget, the projected budget.
Yes. There is funding there. We have grant funding there that will offset that, and we'll get that out of the negative.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and then FY27, as Dr. Tremblay mentioned, we still have a lot of work to do. And, we're committed to working with the city council, with the mayor and his team, and with this committee to get to an FY27 budget that supports all kids, and hopefully we have minimal reductions on top of the 81 positions that we've already cut from the budget. So more to come on FY27 in the next couple of weeks, but hoping to get a budget middle of June, get it uploaded to the system, and then we're able to place orders and get purchase orders so we have supplies and materials ready for next school year. So a lot more to come on that in the next couple weeks, next month or so. That's my update. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we are on the update of the Strategic Initiatives and Financial Oversight Committee, SIFOC applications for the school committee's appointments for 2 seats. The school committee appointed seats for at-large and local businesses are expiring June 30th. The deadlines for applications was May 1st. There were 2 applications for the school committee at-large seat. An additional applicant was interested in either the mayor or the school committee at-large appointment. Another applicant was interested in the city council and mayor seats first, but then the school committee business or at-large seat, and another applicant who the city is waiting on hearing from, which is the seat that they're interested in. We're waiting to hear which seat they are interested in. There have also recently been 2 requests to extend the deadline for more applicants from interested parties. So I'm going to open it up for discussion about next steps, which can include scheduling interviews either in open session I believe we've done assigned in a subcommittee before, and whether or not we should extend the deadline for applications. I'm happy to have you guys weigh in if you want. Do you have anything to contribute to? Our SciFoc members still joining us? Any discussion about SciFoc? Jen?
I'm not opposed to extending for 30 days, and I think that the subcommittee worked out really well when we had done it for the last appointment and brought the recommendations to full committee.
I agree and I agree. I think that if people are willing, if we have more than one per seat, a subcommittee was a way to do it, but I'm happy to open the floor up for more discussion. Adam?
Thanks. Yeah, I agree. We can continue to keep it open since we have more time before any expiration. I was thinking that 2 weeks, but 30 days is fine with me. So either way, just give more opportunity for people to apply, have one last push with the citizen participation officer and school district and others to get the word out. We already know some people who have indicated they wanted to apply and didn't realize it might have been a deadline, so we could just extend it a little bit. Thanks.
And how about subcommittees? Anyone feel strongly about having a subcommittee to do it or to do it in open session? You said subcommittee, I say subcommittee. Kyle?
I agree, subcommittee.
Subcommittee, do the work in a subcommittee. Okay. There's no objection, we'll extend the deadline. Maybe we should perhaps take a motion to extend the deadline. Motion to extend the deadline 30 days and to create a subcommittee. I will appoint or gauge interest, see who wants to serve on it, see who can serve on it, and go from there. Does that sound okay? Do you want to make that motion, Jen?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brent. All right, any discussion? Go ahead.
Sorry to complicate. Only that 30 days might push us to not vote on this till our June 17th or July meeting, which I'm okay with. I just didn't know if we wanted to get that close to the deadline. You know, we could think about if the deadline alternatively was, right before our June 3rd meeting, and that way
June 1st.
there's time, well, I was going to say, if you do it based on our meeting, we should do it based on the day before our packet deadline to allow our executive assistant to work with the city website team and others to get the materials. So like, for example, May 28th would be the Thursday before the June 3rd meeting. Or if we don't mind doing it 2 weeks later, what would it be? June 11th would be the Thursday before the June 17th meeting. That's the way I was thinking.
I'm fine with May 28th.
Well, I think I need to speak on Joanna's behalf. There are a ton of subcommittees that are scheduled, and there's a lot going on in May, so I think the June 11th deadline would be best.
I think the deadline would be for applications, and then we can go to subcommittee after June 1st.
Okay, oh, gotcha what you're saying. Okay, so yes, so applications.
In by May 28th.
In by May 28th.
And it's shared with us in our packets, and then we go inform subcommittee, so we're still at that June 30th deadline.
But we could do a subcommittee before they're in our packets. We could do a subcommittee before it's on open session.
You can create the subcommittee, but you're not going to have applicants to interview.
After May 28th, if that's the deadline, we would.
Yes.
Okay, so after May 28th, so we change the deadline to close the applications on May 28th, and then we try to have a subcommittee meeting before our June 17th meeting. That seems like the plan, right? Because that subcommittee would meet, and then they would bring us their recommendations on the 17th.
Yep.
Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Okay. So all we really needed to know with this motion is that there's a deadline now of May 28th. We're going to extend to the 28th, and then we'll hopefully be up and rolling with the subcommittee before June 17th meeting.
Yes.
Sounds good? Okay. All right, moved by, who made that motion?
Me.
Jen, and it moved by, seconded by?
Brent.
Brent, thank you for repeating. It's late, I get forgetful. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, 800 passes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next is the process to annually evaluate the superintendent by the end of June. Per the student superintendent's contract, the evaluation process needs to be agreed upon. As a reminder, per state law, the DESI evaluation tool, which is in packets, needs to be used and the superintendent's approval goals will be incorporated. Dr. Turnbull will provide an end-of-cycle review to his goals, which can be used for reference for his evaluation, and an opportunity to ask questions or get more information, which is scheduled for June 3rd, and the vote on the annual evaluation is scheduled for June 17th. Okay, I'll open it up for discussion. I did reach out to our field rep one more time for a workshop. Part 2, they don't do a part 2, but just for like if people have general questions and you want to meet on a Zoom call to have some sort of workshop that we can go through. If people have questions on how to use the tool, waiting for a reply. Okay. Is there a motion to use the state form to annually evaluate the superintendent as has been used in the past?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Adam, seconded by Jen. Any discussion?
You have a question.
Adam?
Just to ensure that we're following the superintendent's contract, he also has to agree. So while you don't like raise your hand like us, just want to make sure everything's still stable with you. Great.
Yes, I appreciate that. And I'll also work, in reviewing this, you think it would take me less than 9 years to figure this out, but in addition to the goals that I provide you with all the evidence, and which I'll provide again, of course, in this tool, there's all these areas that you have to evaluate, and with some new members, and you may not see all the day-to-day operations, so in case you have questions as throughout this process, feel free to ask, but I'll also provide you with a summary of evidence relative to each of those sections, so you have something to work from, and then feel free to follow up with any questions. So hopefully that will be helpful to you. There's a lot of nuance to it, but thank you for inviting the question, and of course.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. 8-0. 8-0-0. Okay, here we are. Nominations for the Massachusetts Association of School Committee Awards and Resolution. The forms were included in your packets. It's an opportunity for any nominations or resolutions you'd like the committee to consider sending forward. The majority of these are due by June 1st to MASC. No nominations or resolutions have been proposed so far. And this is obviously going to be on another agenda. May 20th, we'll have this up for anyone who wants to present on a resolution that you're bringing to share with the school committee for a possible vote to send it to MASC. So with that, I will open it up for discussion. All right, I can see the brainstorming's happening. Bring your ideas. Okay. School Building Committee update, turn it over to School Building Committee Vice Chair Adam Freudberg.
Thank you very much. Another important stepping stone meeting in the series of many over the next few years. I have some very brief updates about what we did. We approved invoices, minutes, and funding for ASL, Spanish, and Portuguese interpretation services for the upcoming community forum on the Educational Visioning Plan on May 18th. We reviewed the MSBA's long-awaited answers on the enrollment-related topics. We decided to stick with the plan, as we kind of talked about earlier, of sticking with that number and continuing in the pipeline and the timeline that we prefer. There's a really long and detailed Q&A email from the MSBA and our owner's project manager and district. That was a very helpful read. That is in the meeting packet for anyone who is interested. And then we heard a presentation from the new architect on their initial Hemingway existing conditions plan, including a preview of a really important traffic study that feeds into some of the conversations we need to understand about the impact on traffic for building a new school at the current site as well as the Bethany site, and just making sure we're mitigating that as part of any new project wherever it is, and understanding wetlands and height restrictions and other aspects for the sites being studied. Good PowerPoint has some initial findings, and there'll be much more detail to come. Overall, their initial findings validated the pre-feasibility study from a few years, just showing how difficult it would be to replace a 1961 era building with a 2020 930 era standards at the current site. So more to come on what we do about that and the opportunity to build at Bethany, as well as repurpose Hemingway for continued educational use. The final two things are the committee, thanks to Ms. Barnhill and Mr. Wadland, created a public information subcommittee to coordinate with city and school officials, the project manager and the architect on everything related to public relations, government affairs, community input, transparency. So that is a really important subcommittee that is expected to start and be long-term. And then finally, there are two new members for the building committee. One is automatic based on jobs. The new CFO is a automatic ex officio member, so welcome to him. And then additionally, there is a new member from District 8. Let me just switch slides to get the, there we go, Shreya Shah, absolutely. She's an architect, and welcome to her in the mayor's appointee seat approved by the city council last night. Shreya has worked for an architectural firm for almost 10 years. She has been involved in numerous high school arts and music buildings throughout the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic regions. She describes one of her strengths as building community among all the stakeholders and ensuring that the public voice is included. So glad to now have a complete membership, as that vacancy did exist as a former member did move out of the city and therefore was no longer eligible. Thank you.
Great report. Are there any questions or comments? Did you say you had a question? No. Okay. Close that. All right. School subcommittee reports, finance and operations. I'll turn it over to Willie to report on warrants.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the warrants total, we have a total of $5,095,901.99 and payroll total of $512,287,971.46 on the dates of April 13th, April 20th, April 27th, and May 4th. Thank you. Excuse me, I think I read something wrong. Okay, instead of 512, it's $12,887,971.46 on April 13th, 20th, 27th, and May 4th. Yeah, thought I read the dollar sign as a 5. Sorry about that. Nobody's perfect.
You're good, Willie.
Any other subcommittee reports? Judy?
Excuse me, the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee met on Monday. Is it Monday? Monday to review the pre-K to 12 school handbook and the athletic handbook. We reviewed them. We found some changes that Anne and her team are going to make, and we approved them for bringing to the full school committee for your approval, and as well as the athletic handbook. We had a review of the summer reading for this coming up summer, so that was interesting. And we began discussion on subcommittee goals for 26, 27. So you'll hear more about those soon.
All right. I think that was the only subcommittee that met so far. Got some on the agenda coming up soon. All right, we'll keep going. We're on approval of gifts, field trips, and minutes. So the gifts for health and wellness, high school, Cameron, Harmony Grove, Walsh, Stapleton, Blocks, and McCarthy. Items include funds for end-of-the-year lunch, donations, to reduce prom ticket prices, bike and helmet, empty boxes for projects, funds for student activities, funds for teacher appreciation lunch, breakfast, and Amazon gift cards. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Moved by Jen, seconded by Willie. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Approving the gifts. 800 passes. Minutes. The February 25th, 2026 minutes will be placed on the next agenda for approval. The February 4th, 2026 minutes were in your packet. Is there a motion to approve February 4th?
So moved.
Moved by Jen, seconded by Willie. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. 800. All right, additional public comment. There are 4 people remaining with topics of importance of campus aids, importance of campus aids, Raptor Technologies. And I'm just flagging that all the Brophy people speaking on behalf of Brophy Vice Principal were already heard. So we'll go first. Is Nika still here? It looks like Nika is speaking on behalf of Dominic St. Pierre. Perhaps she left. Okay. Next up, Jennifer Israeloff. Did she leave as well? Sarah Santiago. Jasmine Williams. Jasmine, welcome. We'll do 3 minutes. Welcome. I'll check the Zoom after.
Thank you. I first want to thank the committee for your dedication to Framingham's school and students. I wanted to bring up a concern that I had as a resident with Raptor Technologies, the Framingham Public School System's surveillance technologies partnership with Flock. If you are not aware, Flock Safety is a surveillance technology company that is most notably known for their surveillance cameras that are AI-powered license plate readers. And I wanted to come before the committee to ask a couple of questions about Raptor and its use. I first wanted to just get a better understanding of the programs that Raptor Technologies uses, and if there are any AI-powered cameras used in the dismissal program. I also just wanted to ask if you could explain who is able to access the data, where that data is kept, and for how long that data is kept, and really just different ways the data can be used. There was a case in Elvin, Texas, where the high school campus has about 8 Flock cameras installed, and the Guardian was able to conduct research and found that there are a multitude of different police agencies and different states that are able to gain access by putting in an inquiry to actually see the data that is recorded on the cameras. So I just wanted to bring this concern to the school committee to just ask if you were aware of the programs and the technology used for your surveillance systems, and if there is any way to guarantee that students that might be recorded with these cameras are being kept safe. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you, and thank you for your questions. And I do just want, before you leave, I just want to make sure we have your correct email address to contact you as well.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll check the Zoom one more time for public comment. See if there are participants. Do we have attendees raising hands? No. Yeah, if you would like, if you have all the questions, absolutely. I think we're going to get a live response right now.
Yeah, sure. I can tell you that we do not have any Flock cameras installed in our schools, on our school property at all. So, yep, you're welcome.
I think there was a follow-up question, though, about the Raptor technology of taking the information and where does that go? And I was under the impression that it just kind of spits it back out and doesn't hold up for longer than the visitors in the building. Or is there anything on that you want to comment on now? Or
No, we'd have to research that and give details on it.
okay, so
Yep.
we have your contact information. And
we'll do
okay.
that.
Thank you so much. Additional public comment? Anybody else? Public comment? Sure, come on. Come on up. Not come on.
I just wanted to make you aware about what about for the budget, you're talking about losing money. What if you created the public schools in a way where people would prefer to enroll their kids there? There's a ton of kids that are choosing other schools and other school systems, and you were surprised that we were paying to send kids to other schools out of district, and that's we might be able to attract our deficit from the surrounding towns. I wrote down, like, how about getting students back? My last name's DaCosta. I know why quite a few students left. But what can we offer students here so they don't choose to send their kids to other schools? Have we thought about advertising how good the public schools are, or advertising how good they could be? It was just a thought.
Do you mind just giving us your first name for the?
Oh, I'm
record?
Julia.
Julia DaCosta.
Yes.
No. Thank you. It's for our minutes. All right. Anybody else for public comment? Okay. The next school committee meeting is May 20th, 2026. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Labarge, seconded by Jen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hands. 800. This meeting is adjourned at 9:41 p.m. Have a nice night.